Alright, so today we're going to be diving in on how I get my footage from lifeless and boring all the way up to cinematic, high quality drone footage. So first off, before we start, there's a few things that you have to know before you film your footage. Because if your footage is just destroyed and horrible, you're not going to have a great time editing. So first, you want to make sure that your lighting is good. So that's going to be your exposure and the actual light of the day. But for this footage that you see right here, you can see it's flat, it's almost midday, and it's cloudy. Versus the exact same shot, just like 3 hours later. That's a big difference. And then again, this is raw without any color grading. I like to do something called the hero shot. That's where I like to color grade. So for this video, I'm going to scrub through and find where I would say the best moment in the video is. So for this, it's just going to be this little area. I'm going to start off and I'm going to make sure that I have my scopes, which is my waveform and my vector scope on the right. Your waveform is going to tell you the brightness of the video, and then your vector scope is going to tell you the colors. First, on every clip that you do, you want to do some color correction. Now this will take it out of log footage and into a Rec 709 or like a standard looking clip. You can either use an input LUT like this, but I'm just gonna show you how to do it without that. Here, I just like to throw some saturation, take down my highlights, boost the shadows, and I'm just going to do a simple S point curve. I'm gonna boost the exposure, and you're always looking at your waveform on the left. Now this is where some of the beginners stop, and this looks okay, but I say we can go a step further. So you can use your own LUT if you want, but I would prefer to do the color grading and then throw on a LUT at the end. Some people like to do a LUT and then the color grading after, but it's just however you like. Now, I do have a few LUTs in the description, and those are some of my personal LUTs that I use on the daily. So those are free for you if you want to check it out. But first for this, you can see I like the green that's in this shot. So we're going to jump down to the hue and saturation. I'm going to pull out the green. I'm actually going to desaturate it a little bit. And just stay with me and I'll show you what I mean and why I'm doing this. So I'm going to drop it so it's a more rich green, if you can see that. It just changes it a little bit, and that's looking better. It's not where I want it yet though. So we're going to drop down to our color wheels, and this is where you can do your shadows, your midtones, and your highlights. Now, for this, I don't like to do the same colors every single time. It all just depends on the mood and the shot. So for this shot seems like it's more of a sunset or like a travel type video. Okay, that looks better, but again, it's not where we want it, but it's starting to get that look that we want. This is probably my favorite section of color grading because you can target a certain area. Well, this is similar to a mask, but it's a little bit different. This one you can point and get your colors, and as you can see, as I widen this area, it's going to show me what I want selected. And right now, I don't want any of the grass or trees in there. I just want this water, these rice fields. And then I'm just going to add some warmth to it, some contrast. I'm going to make it a little bit brighter, actually. This is a pretty good looking image from this to this. I'm proud of this one, and I like this one. Next, I'm going to show you a night photo. So I think that this photo is awesome. This was shot in Japan, and this is actually like early in the morning. So I wanted to get this, and I want it to look like a nighttime or like a Batman looking shot. So before this is all warm, let me reset, and this is after. First, we're going to jump in, and we're just going to do our color correction. So right here, we're just going to come to our highlights, drop that down. And as you can see on my scopes, it's sitting lower than normal. Now, I like to also bring my blacks so they just barely touch. So they're clipping just a little bit. That's what I prefer. Now this, I'm going to actually have it just be a little bit colder. And if you can see my color over here. So if you look at your vector scope, you want to make sure you have your vector scope over here. And right here, you can see this line. Now, this is for skin tones. We're not going to be using this, but you can see where my colors are. They're more yellow and green. So originally, you can see my colors, they're more on the yellow and green side, which I do want, but I don't want all this purple on the side. So So we're going to take our tint, drop it about 3. I'm actually going to drop my temperature, so my white balance, by about 5. Now we'll come down to our curves. I like the S curves. Now I like doing curves, but for this, I don't think it matters that much. We're going to go here and we're just going to remove all the blues. When you're color grading, you'll see that you'll get a lot of blue in your images when it's dark or in your shadows. I like to remove a lot of that. It just gives it a better look. I want to keep this orange, and I'll boost that, and I'll keep that red. We'll go here. I see this yellow from the street lights. I think I'll make this a little bit darker, and then we'll come back to our hue, and I'll make it a little bit deeper. Now, I'm going to actually be using a LUT for this because I've got it where I look. Now, I have it where I like it, but you can just add a LUT to get fit that certain look. Now, a LUT would tend to be over the whole footage, but these are different clips, and these are different feelings, so I can show you what it's like. Right here, I'm going to use one of my personal LUTs. That looks pretty good right there. It gives it that dark looking feeling, like it's from a Batman or a futuristic look. Now, if you can see, I can toggle on my curves, and you can see some of the blues come out. This is what I mean by removing all of that. Makes it look really good, and I'm actually really proud of this shot. Now, here's the fun part. We're going to be working on masks. This is a little bit more difficult, but this is where your footage can go from intermediate to professional level. Masks take a little while to understand and to get good at them, but once you have it down, you should be golden. So right here, we're going to do some color correction. And again, we're just going to drop our highlights, raise the shadows, and this is all depending on every shot. But as you can see, it feels really flat and there's not much color. But if I try to push the contrast on it, you can see I'm clipping the blacks on it. You're going to go to your effects, you're going to find Lumetri color, drag it onto your clip. Once it's on your clip, then you're going to find the second Lumetri color, the one that you're doing. I'm just going to rename this mask to make it easy. Now we're going to take this. So this first mask that we just made is only going to affect the ground. So if you look, I can raise the exposure, and I'm going to raise the contrast, drop the highlights, add some shadows, add some more contrast, and give it a little bit of color. Now, if you can see, it just made it pop a little bit more. Again, you can just go through and change some of the colors. I'll do that real quick. And so now we're gonna jump over to the sky. I'm going to just add some contrast. And so you can see, it just kind of draws your eye towards it. Now, a cool thing that you can do here is copy it, paste it, and so there should be 2 now. Invert it, then you'll take this inverted one, you'll reset it, and you'll drop the exposure. That way it's kind of focused on this one part. So in these temples in Thailand, you can see it's just focused on this little area right here. Now here's one thing that can step your footage up even to the next level. So here is without any effects, and this is with. I love this image right here because it's leading lines down over to this little section right over here. But I don't like it how that it's not showing up the sun ray that was hitting over right here. You can't really show it on video. So what I like to do is I like to use some light flares. You can go through and manually track them onto the shot, or you can use a plugin or whatever else. I'm just using Artlist's plugin, and it's an auto light flare. I love it. It works really well. So this will just go on here, and you can pick which type of light flare, or you can just do it manually. So a video like this is actually really simple to do. I just went through and I threw on a light flare. I also went through and just did a ton of contrast. I changed the white balance of it. And then I threw on one of my own LUTs. Now, a LUT like this makes it really simple because you can just go through and get the desired look and then change it based off of whatever. For this, I'm just going with my Kodak inspired LUT. That's one of my favorites actually. I throw it on almost everything. Looks really good for this video. Now this is one of my favorite flights I've ever done. I'm really proud of this one, and I love this shot. This was in Okinawa, Japan. So as you can see, I like the blue over here, and I like the sun over here, and this leading line that's going into the lighthouse right here. It's amazing. It's a great composed shot. So what am I going to do to make this look perfect? I'm going to go through and I'm just going to add a little bit of contrast. I'm going to drop the shadows so the clouds start to pop out. I'm going to keep the shadows where they're at, and I'm actually going to come down to my hue versus luma. Now, you have to be careful when you use the hue versus luma because it can start to destroy the colors when you use it. So you have to use it sparingly. Actually, I'm going to raise the blues to make them pop a little bit. I am going to come over to this sun area, so it's this very wide range. I'm just going to bring it up a little bit so then it's not as yellow. Again, this little sun area, and I'm actually going to just make it pop a little bit more. And so you can see the ocean starting to pop even more. I'm actually going to bring that up a lot more. I actually really like that. And now we're going to take our HSL secondary. And as you can see right here, so this looks really good, but you can see it's starting to fall apart and it doesn't look correct because there's some artifacting going on the ground over here. So throughout my shot, I'm just going to check. That looks good. It's really blurry, which is what you want. So from before, this looked pretty good to now the after. It's a very big difference and it makes a world difference and it just looks amazing. Now, our last one today is going to be masking and really heavily altering a messed up shot. This was a rush shot and I've had a crash here before. This was in Argentina with the hot air balloons. So this was a failed attempt, but I love this shot right here. I don't think this needs any conversion LUT because it's not too serious. We'll try to give it some warmth, but really, see, if you push it too much, it looks bad. So you can't push it too much right here. I'm then going to jump over to my curves. This is actually a little bit weird, but you're going to mess with your red, green, and blue. So instead of here, I'm going to drop my red just a hair. I'm going to drop my green just a hair. And I'm going to drop my blue just a little bit. I actually want my green to be higher than everything else. That way it gives it this little greenish look to the shadows, which I prefer, and that's what I like. We'll actually pull most of the color out of the sky, and as you can see, it's made everything below here flat, which is fine for now. Now, we're going to jump down to our color wheels. We're going to, and in our highlights, we're actually going to boost a ton with the red. And here we're going to go through. Now we're actually going to throw some orange and some yellow in there. Same with the midtones. And my shadows, I'm actually going to throw some blue. I think it just looks better that way. So it's looking better, but it's not where I want it. HSL secondary, take the sky. And as you can see, it's pointing more towards yellow, and these are not all lined up, which is why we moved our green up and our red and our blue lower. So this shot looks good, but as you can tell, something's not right about it. Now we want to jump back up and change our tint because that's what's messing it up. As you can see, just that little change makes the world difference. From that to that. Now that makes it look like it's a lot better. It fixed our color correction. And now this shot, you can go through, and if you want to get more in depth with it, when you get over to this shot over here, where it has the hot air balloon. So as you can see in this shot where they're lighting the hot air balloon, you could throw a mask on, and DaVinci Resolve is actually perfect for this. Premiere Pro isn't the best for masks, but I love DaVinci because you can do a simple mask and just track it throughout the whole video. So this is where you would use DaVinci Resolve over Premiere Pro. I actually like to just throw an adjustment layer on top of everything and do my color grading there, so then it affects everything and I don't have to do it for every single clip. That way you can throw on a LUT or you can do anything else. I actually like to do my color grading and then do another layer where it then will do my LUT. On top of there, you can then do your masks per video and you can do everything else, as in your sun flares, your effects, everything else. If you just do a few of these things and stick to the fundamentals and you just practice, 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 and you work on everything, then soon your footage will start turning out amazing and you'll get some awesome footage. Hope this helped. I'm Zane Shaw, and keep flying.